So here's a boat I just finished picking up. It's a 2005 Sundance Skiff F17. The owner I bought it from had it sitting for about 10 years and he took pretty good care of it. As you can see, the hull still has its shine, which is good because majority of these skiffs are all beat up once you find them. It's sitting on an aluminum trailer and it's being powered by a 70 Yamaha 2-stroke. Just gonna do a quick walkthrough of the boat and show you some of the things I need to do to it in order to make it perfect. The boat has been sitting for 10 years, so there's a couple of things that got to be fixed on it. Here on the center console, the previous owner had a VHF and GPS that was pretty outdated. So I gotta cover up all these holes and install a newer GPS on there. Here's the one modification that the owner did, which I don't know how I feel about it. The reason being is that it's a cooler, but it doesn't have a drain in it. It has about 2 inches of water in there, so it's holding water. So either I figure out how to put a drain on it, or I'm thinking about just removing it and putting a removable cooler in there. Here's a front hatch, front deck. Here's a navigation light, which I need to change out. I also need to change out the anchor light mounts. Let me show you the main reason I bought this boat. This Yamaha right here. So this Yamaha only has 60 hours on it. I was kind of hesitant on believing that, but that is what the odometer says. And when you take a look at it, see that it's pretty much spotless. The previous owner removed the oil injection system on it, which I was planning on doing anyways, so it's less work for me. But as you can see, this motor is pretty well taken care of. Or actually never been really used. So even though the owner says he had a mechanic look at it about a month ago, I'm still gonna do a couple things to it since the boat has been sitting for a while. So I'm gonna be changing out the impeller, and I recommend everybody do that once they buy a boat. Like, don't take someone's word for it. You know, change the impeller. That's kind of the life of the engine. Also be changing out thermostat and all the fuel filters on it. And after I test drive it, I'll see if I need a clean up of the carburetors. Matter of fact, let me turn it on for you guys so you can hear it. I'm going to pretty much start working on the motor right now. First thing I'm going to do is change out the impeller. So I'll be recording that. I'll show you guys how to do it. I'll probably be doing an oil voiceover throughout this process. Okay, so in order to remove the lower unit from the midsection, there's usually about 4 to 5 bolts holding it in place. If these bolts are stubborn, it's because there's salt sediment in there. So you may have to apply some heat and a little bit of force to take it out. But if the maintenance is done every year, you reduce the risk of this happening. So as you can see, this slid out pretty easily, so maybe the impeller was changed recently. After you remove the lower unit, you may want to put it on a stand to work on it more comfortably. Once you're in a comfortable position, you can use an impact wrench or a regular wrench to loosen the 4 main bolts that hold the water casing together. After you do this, you might want to use a flathead screwdriver. There's going to be some indications along the sides of the casing to help you apply pressure in order to separate it. Once you slide that off, you're going to see that there's also a impeller insert cartridge. You want to remove that to expose the impeller itself. And then you're going to want to use the same method of using a screwdriver in order to put pressure to release the impeller from the shaft. This may take some pressure, just be patient and it will slide off. After removing the impeller, you can simply just replace it with a new one, or you can also change the lower plates, which I highly recommend. In order to do this, all you gotta do is remove the gasket. Then you're gonna see a keyway. You might have to apply some heat to remove this because they are a little stubborn to come out. The easiest way that I find this to be done is just to hit it on the top, since it's a moon shape, and it will eventually slide down and come out, just like you see right here. Once this is out of the way, you're then able to remove the plates and the lower housing. Under the lower housing, there's going to be another gasket and the main bushing that goes around the shaft. What I'm doing here is that I'm removing the existing gasket, making sure that no debris falls inside of the case. The way I do this is with a single edge blade. Here I'm cleaning the housing itself with the same single edge blade, and you can also use some brake cleaner. After that, you can just replace everything in the opposite order that you took it apart. Starting with a gasket, the bottom housing, you might want to tap it in place, make sure it's secure, flush, and it aligns the holes. Then I'm doing the same thing, I'm just cleaning the surface so I can apply the next gasket using some brake cleaner as well. And then I insert the new plate, assuring that it's in the right orientation. And there's only one way to put this in. As you can see, it has pinholes on the bottom housing that line up with the plate. After that, I install another gasket. Next, I insert some marine grease inside the keyway, and this helps prevent that keyway from sticking, so that if I ever need to do a future maintenance, it won't be as hard to take off. Just tap it in place lightly. Now we are ready to replace the impeller. I usually like to put some marine grease around it so it slides down nicely. Make sure that it's in the correct orientation and lines up with the keyway. Then what you want to do is you're going to want to get that cartridge and you're going to want to insert it inside the housing. Slide it over the impeller, and then you're going to want to rotate it counterclockwise so that the fins make it inside the housing. Then you're going to align the pins to the casing, and in order for it to sit correctly, you're going to also want to push down and then rotate the shaft counterclockwise as well, and then if you notice, it falls in place. Then you just simply insert the bolts and you tighten them up by hand, and I usually do a X pattern in order to make sure that everything is being tightened evenly. Then you might need some help for this. This might be a little difficult, but when you insert the lower unit to the midsection of the motor, you're going to need to line up the spline with the crankshaft. If you don't get it on your first try, you just got to remove it, rotate the shaft, quarter turn, and hopefully it lines up. Just keep on doing this and it should line up eventually. I think this was my second or third try before I got it to line up perfectly. And then all you gotta do is just insert the bolts and tighten them down in a cross pattern as well. In this next part of the video, I'll be showing you how to replace the thermostat. The thermostat is located above the exhaust manifold, and in order to get to it, you have to remove the housing, which is held in with two bolts. Unfortunately for me, these two bolts were very stubborn to come out and ended up snapping on me. Here you can see that I've even applied some heat to try to loosen them up, but eventually they snapped. So I will also be showing you how to properly drill and tap these holes so you can reinstall the thermostat correctly. Here I'm just using a pair of needle nose pliers to remove the thermostat, and as you can see, this thermostat hasn't been changed in a very long time. Here I'm just going to use a wire brush to clean out the inside of the hole where the thermostat sits. There was a little bit of debris in there, but not too much. And then now we're going to start the process of retapping the holes. The first thing you want to do is you want to get a center punch, line it up to the center of the broken bolts, and make an indentation. This helps with the drill bit not walking around on you. This is very important, so take your time and be very careful, because if you off center by a little bit, you might not be able to tap the hole in the correct orientation. After you do this, you're going to want to get some type of lubrication in that hole before drilling. I use WD-40. You're going to want to do this very frequently in order to keep the drills from wearing out. You're going to want to take your time throughout this process by working your way up drill bit sizes in order to reach the desired diameter that you need for that specific bolt. Make sure to always lubricate the hole in between drill bits in order to keep it from clogging up, and also make sure that you keep your drill perfectly perpendicular to the surface that you're drilling. This is very important in order for you to be able to make the hole in the exact same orientation that it was before. Once you're done drilling out the holes, make sure you clean the area very well and inspect it with a flashlight, assuring that there's no loose metal within it. If this is all good, then you can continue to tapping the hole. Make sure you lubricate once again before you start tapping. Once you're sure you have the correct tap that you need, you're going to want to slightly rotate it until it grabs onto the metal. Make sure that it's straight and perpendicular to the surface. Once it grabs, it's as simple as rotating it slowly. I usually rotate about half a turn and back it out about a quarter turn. Do this until you reach your desired depth. Once you have reached your desired depth, it's as simple as cleaning out the hole, inspecting it, and then trying out the bolt. If the bolt goes in nice and smooth and snug, then you should be good. That's it for this video. I will be continuing to post up videos on the process of the skiff. If you guys find these videos interesting, please follow, share, and like. And thank you for watching.